All right, race fans, Brian Aho and the Burt Lehman bringing you, I guess, the first of the year, episode 61 of the One to Go show, the first of 2021. Burt, Happy New Year, man.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. Hopefully 2021 is a little bit better than 2020.
It's funny. I've talked to a lot of people, and some people said, man, I had the best year that I've ever had in 2020. So I guess life is what you make of it, right? We were throwing some curveballs, and the people that found out how to maybe kind of hit that curveball, some of them hit it out of the park, and some people are going, man, what the hell just happened? We need this year to be a lot better. So regardless of the fact, there's going to be racing going on. It's already started. Excited about that. We did get to watch quite a bit of racing last year, which was good. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, I agree with you. We all want this COVID crap to be done. We all want the politics crap to be done. We just want to get on with life, focus on what we can do, and have a lot of fun doing it. And, race fans watching this, I hope you're getting some value out of this. There's so much craziness going on in the world out there. I hope that we're able to give you an hour and a half, sometimes escape from all that craziness in the world. I guess that's kind of the goal. We just like to have fun talking racing, and we're gonna stick to that, right, Burt?
Yeah, that's correct. And there was a little bit of a break in racing around the Christmas holiday, but there was a few races last week, and we'll go over those. But you look at the upcoming events, and it's like the season's almost in full gear already.
It is. It's crazy. We'll talk about that in just a little bit here. And I know there was a race that I knew you wouldn't miss. I mean, it was there was a dirt late model race already happened. The Hangover down at the 411 Seymour, Tennessee. Burt, I know that you said you watched the late model A main there. What kind of stuck out to you in that one?
Yeah, I did watch the late model A main. I did not watch the entire program. The entire program was 10 hours and 45 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, nice quick show. Nice quick show. In fact, I did talk to Puka. He got to go down with the family to Arizona, and he says, you know what, if I would have known that, I would have taken a detour. He's already called the track to figure out on tickets for that race for next year. In all honesty, that they usually run a good show. It was supposed to be a 2-day event down there. Mother Nature happened. They practiced, I believe, on Thursday. They said the track was really good. It was smooth. Rained all day Friday, Thursday night into Friday, canceled Friday. And typically, if you have a 2-day show, it's because you have so many cars, it's hard to fit that into one day, right? Mm-hmm. So they switched that around. They made it a 1-day show there on Saturday, and 200 cars strong, and Mother Nature kicked their tail on the racetrack. I mean, it was rough. They had to farm it multiple times. So, they, in fact, I went on their Facebook page, and, they're like, man, we dropped the ball on that one. They apologized, and they're like, we need to do better. It is what it is. So that's all you can ask for. I don't think, there's not much you can control when Mother Nature pours a bunch of rain on you. We've all been there. We're dirt race fans. It happens. It's part of it. But, let's get to the racing side of things. What did you see in the late model race?
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about track conditions. I mean, the track was definitely rough. I was watching the race, and I was thinking to myself, yep, this track surface definitely has some personality behind it. And, I'm not sure how many cars started, but as I was watching that race, the announcer made the comment, yep, we're halfway through, 25 in, 25 to go. And I counted the cars on the track, and there's like 7 cars left on the track. And, Hedgecock, 5 finished. Yeah. Hedgecock was leading much of the first portion of the lap, but then he hit a rut, and his car almost flew into another car, and then he pulled off shortly after. But it was definitely a rough track. And I think Christian Hangar, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Hagar, whatever you want to call him. But yeah.
I mean, I think he had the fastest car at the end of the race. But Pierce McCarter, who was racing the Masters built house car, which I didn't even realize they had a house car anymore, was the leader. And it seemed like, the track was rough, but it seemed like McCarter found a lane on the track where it wasn't as rough, and he was able to follow that lane. So if you wanted to pass him, you had to go into the rougher stuff. And there was a couple of times when Hanger got really close, but then he hit a rut, and then he bounced his car around, and then he fell back a little bit. But I also, McCarter did win the race. I did watch the post-race interviews also, and they asked McCarter about, they said, it looked like you could put your car just about anywhere. And he said, my car was just going wherever it wanted to go, because you hit the ruts, you have no control over where it goes, really. So, he kind of made light of the fact that, there were times when he had no control over his car. So, but a good win for him. I know there were other divisions that raced there, and you saw some of those, correct?
Yeah, a little bit more on the late models. That Christian Hanger, that's kind of a common deal, right? You get on a racetrack that's got some character. It's rough. It's pretty choppy. Usually, the fastest line on the racetrack is right through the holes. That's usually the fastest line, but it's kind of like running the cushion. How many times we talk about Bobby Pierce, right? You live or die by the cushion, and it's kind of what happened in the holes. He was charging. He got just to the inside of him. He hooked a rut, and he lost like 10 car lengths. It was like all over, and he caught him again. But, it's one of those deals, and I've seen a lot of people say, I'm just going to get second, because even if he wins that race, pounding it through the holes, typically speaking, it costs them more to fix it than it does the difference between first and second. But I get it. At least they were racing hard, so yeah, pretty cool to see the Masters built house car. Maybe that's what that car needs to get a few wins under the belt, track with some character, traction in it. But good to see Masters built back in victory lane. And, what's interesting to me, they had one roll over in hot laps, and it looked like
I did see that.
Yeah, he caught a little bit of a rut, but it was tractioned up. It looked more like a traction rollover. And there was a rollover in a B main. What was interesting to me is there was only like 22 late models. They all made the feature. Why was there a B main? You got a 10-hour and 40-minute race program, and you're having a B main for a class that doesn't even have 24 cars. So that was confusing to me. I didn't really know why they had that. And then looking at it here, the 604 lates, right? I kind of watched all of it because there wasn't a lot of racing to be had. And the 604 lates, I'll post the video here, fans, so you can kind of watch it. If you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, if you're watching this, take a look at this. The leaders, as you can see, they get together going on the front straightaway. And I'm just going to let you make the judgment there. Needless to say, you see one gets upside down here. You make the call on that one. A little bit of excitement there with the leaders in the 604. I think Josh Seiss was one of them guys. That was a little bit interesting. And what's crazy, Bert, is when the track gets character, you're going to see some action. And when you see some action, you might see some heated tempers. I heard the rumors. That kind of happens once in a while, right? So speaking of the heated tempers, the mod feature, because I'm a mod guy, got to watch the mod feature. Just is what it is, right? Early in the feature, maybe about halfway through, getting into turn 3, one of them ended up on the side. Didn't roll hard, up on the side, comes back down, and Bert, if you haven't seen this, I'm posting it right now on the video. This was hilarious. This was good stuff. This dude was so pissed off. He gets out of his car, and you can tell, he's waiting for that guy to come at him, right? He gets out of the car, he starts running on the track, falls right on his ass. Now he's really pissed. Now he's even more mad because not only did the guy wreck him, but now he looked like a bonehead in front of the whole field. So the guy comes by, he takes his helmet, bam, smashes it off his car, and it's like, man, all right, so I know what helmets used to cost when I race, and I'll just say this, they cost more now, right? So let me ask you this. Should tracks confiscate that helmet and say this is no longer usable? If you take a helmet and you bounce it off somebody's race car, does that void a warranty maybe or something? Maybe if somebody did that, right? If a racetrack or a series says, look, you smashed your helmet off a guy's car. We don't know if that thing's any good anymore. We don't feel safe with you racing it. And they take that guy's helmet. That's $1,000, right? six to 1,000, depending on what kind of helmet you buy. Could be up to that, right? They take that guy's helmet away. Do you think that might deter him from ever bouncing his helmet off a car again?
Yeah, I think that would be a deterrent. I never thought of it that way, where, you know, if you throw your helmet, bounce it off a car, that you know, it might not be good anymore. You may have messed with the integrity of the helmet. And so, yeah, that is actually a good point. And if tracks would take away a helmet, I think that would be a deterrent.
Yeah, I actually saw that, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying this because he's a buddy of mine, but I saw Buzzy Adams do a similar deal. There was I think it was with Jimmy Randall. I think he had a confrontation with him. This was down in Wilmer, Minnesota, KRA Speedway, and this was way back. Buzzy was still racing a street stock at the time, and I'll never forget it. I was parked in the back. I was watching from the kind of the entry watching. That's where I parked, and next thing you know, Buzzy gets dumped. I think he's up over the wall getting into turn one, and he jumps out of his car, and he does the same thing. He goes running at Randall, and he fell in the mud. I'm like, oh my God, dude. So then he was really pissed. I'm like, it kind of brought back flashbacks of that. So, you know, tempers flare. It is what it is. Now in the mod feature, you know, the winner of that race, and I believe Josh Seitz was racing multiple cars, because I believe he won the mod feature as well. I might have that wrong, but I don't think so. Dude, he lapped the entire field. Don't get too excited, okay? Because I think 3 cars finished the race. You know, so there was less than 20 cars that started, but that track had some character. It took a whole bunch of cars out of the race. He lapped the entire field. I think there was only 3 left at the end. And he's like, you know, a lot of people don't like this kind of racetrack. I do. And he must build his cars a little tougher. It was pretty choppy down there. But a couple other things that stuck out. Remember that deal that Bloomquist had, the 12 days of Christmas kind of going in? He had that, I guess they did like a raffle deal. I think people bought spots and they could win a car. And a kid by the name of Brody Littleton won the Bloomquist car. Now, I didn't realize it, but it was a brand new 2020 Team Zero car, brand new car. I didn't know.
Oh, really?
I thought
I didn't realize it was a brand new car. I thought maybe it was a used one.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, they actually had him as the grand marshal, and this kid got to wave the flag to start the race. He was kind of the honorary flag man for the super late model feature down there. And they talked to him, and sounds like he's getting a 604 crate to put in it. He's going to run that in the 604 class, which is good. You know, we don't want to see him in the. But, man, I got mixed feelings on this deal. You know, I mean, it was really cool what Bloomquist did. I mean, it was. I mean, to see his emotion when the kid was so excited on the other end, and that kid was so excited and he was crying, and Bloomquist got teared up. It's like, it's kind of one of them heartwarming. It was actually a pretty cool deal, right? Then the other side of me is going, this kid over here, I mean, like literally just watching him talking to him, there's no way he's mature enough to be in a late model. Like, what are they thinking, right? I mean, he should be starting in like a Hornet or a short tracker or something like that. I mean, because he just that. So I'm kind of torn. I thought, like I said, it was a cool deal what Bloomquist did and all the emotion, and it was kind of one of them. Hey, this is a soft side of Scott Bloomquist. That was cool. It really was, but I'm a little bit concerned about that kid being in a race car. After seeing him talk a couple different times, I'm like, I don't think he's ready to be in a late model. I mean, that is just not smart. Even if it's a 604, you rip the front end off a late model, you're looking at a couple $1,000 if you figure out a nose piece, bumper, front suspension. I mean, whatever. What's your thoughts on that deal, Bert?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, it is a feel-good story, and you know, we don't want to take away from that. I mean, I hope that the kids' parents, that they really think about the correct path that the kid should take. I mean, there's nothing wrong with still starting out in a different division. You know, keep the late model, start out in a different division, get some experience, and then start racing that. I mean, hopefully they don't just put it together and put them in the car, because, yeah, like you said, I mean, one accident can be very costly. And then, I mean, they could be done for the year or forever. I mean, I can remember, I mean, this was, God, this has to be at least 10 years ago, if not longer. Shawano Speedway did a raffle. They raffled off a sport mod. That's when the sport mods were just starting at the Speedway. And the person who won it, I don't think he ever raced it. I don't even know what happened to the car. So, I mean, those are feel good stories doing stuff like that, but then you never know if the car is actually going to get out on the track, or if the person who wins it is capable of racing the car on the track.
Sounds like he ran like I don't know if it's called a micro late model, like a miniature late model type deal. He raced one of those, and they interviewed him. You know, Mom was there. They said, "Is this going to be out in 2021?" And he looked down to Mom like, "What do you think, Mom?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's going to be out." And for all I know, I mean, maybe they're going to be smart, right? Maybe they say, "Hey, look, here's the deal. We're going to get some practice nights in." Maybe they make them start in the back, right? I know I interviewed Kent Arment and his daughter. She started in the back, right? Cameron did the whole year. Maybe that's their plans. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't get too far ahead of myself on that, you know. So, I mean, hopefully they do that. I mean, it's you want to see somebody get some track time, some experience, kind of get used to the speed a little bit before they get thrown to the wolves. But needless to say, it's pretty cool. And another thing that stuck out to me there, Bert, is, you know, because there was not much else racing going on, I watched quite a bit of this show, and, you know, I kind of tried my hand at the announcer side of things here this past year, had a blast doing it. So I'm like, I kind of want to listen to what, you know, the announcer says at this race. I want to kind of hear how that goes. And, you know, a couple things stuck out to me. Number one is, you know, this time of year, if you jump on Facebook, you see people posting stuff like, "Hey, who wants to sponsor my race car?" Right? Or, "Hey, here's an opportunity, 500 for this spot and 1,000 for this spot. Contact me if you want to sponsor me." And I'm going, seriously? Like that's your marketing plan? I mean, that's ridiculous. And as a driver back in the day, I used to have the mindset, right, that, hey, we're giving you a lot of value. Your name's going on my car. I'll put it on there big, and I'll even put you on my suit, and I'll give you a couple. Back in the day, this wasn't the case, but now you get a couple Facebook posts. Okay, well, let's be honest. What kind of value is really there, right? What kind of value is really there? Because, you know, most of the time you can see at most one sponsor on the car. That's it. And you're hoping the announcer maybe announces it, but most of the announcers that I heard last year, the vast majority of them never say a driver sponsor. And if they do, it's one or two. And I've been on that side of things. And a lot of times you have time to maybe mention one or two sponsors, but if they have 10, 15 sponsors, there's just, I'm sorry, but there's just no way. I mean, there's just not enough time to do that for every driver. We can't, you know, there's no way. Now, what surprised me though, okay, so I was listening. Did they mention any sponsors? Not only did this announcer not mention one single sponsor, I never even heard him mention a track sponsor. I never heard series. I never heard any, like no sponsors at all out of his mouth. There were several features, Bert. This dude didn't even announce the starting lineup. I'm like, what? You know, like what are they paying this guy for? And that really got me thinking. I mean, what's your thoughts on that whole deal? I mean, on, you know, value, I guess, of an announcer at the racetrack. What do you like to hear from an announcer?
I mean, I think an announcer is very valuable to the racing program, but I think some people may have a misconception on where that value actually comes from. I mean, I think some people may think the value comes from play-by-play of calling the race, and to me, that's not where the value comes from. Because to be honest, if you're at the track, you really can't hear the announcer during the race anyway, because the cars are so loud. You really can't hear the play-by-play of the race. It's a little bit different now if the race is being streamed. If the announcer knows that the race is being streamed, then play-by-play becomes a little bit more important. I mean, I'm not saying don't do play-by-play. You still have to do play-by-play. It is important. But to me, the value of an announcer comes when the cars are not racing. You know, like you said, naming the drivers. Tell us where the drivers are from. If you're new to the track, you want to know who, is there a traveler there? I always love going to, like, my home track and there's a car there I don't recognize, it's like, who is this guy? The announcer needs to tell the fans who that driver is. And during the intermission is a time when to me, the announcer should really be making their money, because they should be upcoming events at the racetrack. What events are there for kids? Is there going to be a coin drop in upcoming weeks? You can help promote other racetracks in the area. I know a lot of tracks in eastern Wisconsin will do that. Hey, next Friday at such and such speedway. My biggest pet peeve for an announcer, and I need to say this first though, I would never make a good announcer. So don't, I'm not saying that I can do a better job than the announcers out there, because I can't. I'm not a talker. I like sitting behind a computer and typing my stories. I don't like to tell the stories with my voice, as much as a lot of announcers do. But my biggest pet peeve is when a track goes on intermission and then they turn on the radio and pipe that through the PA system. That's not accomplishing. That's not trying to promote your racetrack or create buzz or anything like that. I don't think that's, okay, if you have to go to the bathroom, fine, take a 5-minute break, put the radio on, but don't have the radio on for the entire 15-minute intermission or however long the intermission is.
Right. And you're a race fan, so you're looking at it from that angle, and I was a driver, right? So I'm looking at it from a totally different angle. And I agree on the play-by-play. At a lot of tracks, the play-by-play, if there's no streaming, yeah, it's necessary, but a lot of times you can't hear it, so it is what it is. But some tracks have really good sound back in the pits. They have good sound in the back. They're tied to maybe a radio station. Sure. They got streaming. So you need a good play-by-play guy there. But as a driver, and don't get me wrong, for the most part in my racing career, not only was I a driver, but I was a broke-ass driver, right? There was no way I was going to race without all the great sponsors that I had on my car. It just simply was not going to happen. And in my mind, and in the mind of most racers, okay? Now, some of the racers out there are more educated, and they're like, hey, we know that's not where the value is. But most racers, we've thought about it like, well, hey, what is the sponsor getting out of this, right? And initially we're like, well, hey, we're putting the name on the car, right? And I've heard that a million times, hey, I'll put your name on the car. $500 gets you this spot, $1,000 gets you this spot, whatever, right? Okay, let's be honest, Bert. Okay, most of those sponsors, unless it's the primary sponsor on the side of the car, you can't see it. You just simply,
I agree. Right? I agree.
Then we're thinking, okay, and I've seen this in people's marketing plans. In fact, I've done marketing portfolios for people, and I even put this in there because it should be the case. I put in there, the announcer will mention your name, right, during lineups and stuff like that. Most cases, and there's a few announcers that are pretty good at this, there is. But the majority of them nowadays across the country simply do not take the time to get those sponsors. And that's partially on the drivers too, because the drivers should be going to the announcer, right? Or to the track and saying, hey, here's my information. Bam, give it to the announcer so they have something. We have My Race Pass. They even have a profile deal on My Race Pass where people can fill that out. It's crazy to me how many people don't even fill out their My Race Pass profile. Dude, it takes like 10 minutes, right? And we're talking sponsors giving you thousands of dollars, or in some case less, some case more, and you can't take the time to put their name in there to make sure announcers have that info. Come on, that's on the drivers, right? But with that said, I love the announcers that take the time to get educated, right? Because you're right. I love when they're filling in the blanks. But when I want to hear about a driver, it's hype. I want the hype, right? Because a lot of fans, they need to be able to connect with that driver. If there's somebody like Kevin Burdick that won the 2019 WISSOTA Superstock National Champion, when he's being announced for the race in that next year, he needs to be announced as the reigning WISSOTA Superstock National Champion. That's just how it should be. If somebody's the point leader at the racetrack, hey, your point leader here at the Shawano Speedway is so-and-so. Say that kind of stuff. or if there's a points battle going on and maybe there's a rivalry, play that stuff up, right? Hey, if somebody won the last 3 features in a row, I want to hear that, right? I want to hear if that person did that. That's somebody that's being a professional, right? You hear a guy, we've heard of several times, Ben Shelton, right? Mm-hmm. When he goes down to announce, I've seen this on his Facebook page a number of times, right? Drivers, I'm coming down to your track. Hit me up with your information so that I have something to talk about. He's proactive. He's taking the time to be educated so he can give value to the race fans. Man, that's the way it's supposed to be done. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to, that leads into being an announcer is not just showing up at the racetrack and calling the races. It's showing up at the racetrack, walking through the pits, seeing who's there. If there's a new driver there, talk to them, find out information about them so you can relay that information to the fans. Talk to the local drivers, hey, how'd you do, if they raced the night before or 2 days ago or what, hey, how'd you do last night? Because then you can, a lot of the announcers in Eastern Wisconsin are very good at doing this. They'll, so-and-so, winner of the feature at such and such speedway 2 days ago, announcing is just not calling the races. It's providing information to the fans that the fans do not have readily available to them.
Yeah, and especially with my race pass and all, right? Because most of the tracks you can just you already know what the lineup is before the announcer even calls it. So, if you have my race pass, if you have the app, you can jump on there and you can be like, oh, hey, here's the lineup for tonight's feature. That information is there. You already know that. So the announcer needs to provide more value than that. And, so when it comes down to the sponsors, that's why what I'm doing, I'm just going to, give myself a little plug here. In the coming weeks, it's probably going to be the first week of February, I'm guessing, or right around there. I'm going to be doing a seminar on how to get sponsorships in dirt track racing and how to retain those sponsors, because I think it's something the drivers need to hear. So keep an eye on the Facebook page for that info, because we can't be expecting the announcers to do all of our work for us as race car drivers. We need to be providing that value to our sponsors, because quite frankly, it's up to you as a driver to make sure that happens. It's, as much as we'd like the announcer to do it, most of the time that's not going to happen. So, but it was cool. We're finally able to see some dirt track racing down there, right? Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And I actually did get to watch a little bit more dirt track racing than that. Did you happen to watch any of the Tulsa shootout?
I did not see any of the Tulsa shootout. My wife had surgery last week, so I've been a little bit busy with that sort of stuff, and she's doing great, by the way. So all is well. But it took up some of my time, so I wasn't able to watch as much racing as I wanted to leading into the new year. But I know you watched the Tulsa shootout, and I remember we talking about this race last year and the number of cars that they had there, and we were just amazed at how many cars show up for that event.
Last year set the record. It was 1,397 entries. I looked, I could not find the exact number for this year. I believe it was less than that. Obviously COVID probably played a little bit of a part in that for some people, but I think the record for that event, though, 1,397, absolute insanity. And we can't talk racing without, my buddy Keith would flip out if I didn't talk about the buggies here a little bit. So there's a couple big stories that stuck out to me. There's a lot of races. I'm not going to recap all of it. I'm simply not going to. But one of them was, there was an incredible weekend by Pennsylvania's Brian Carber. Raced in, I think he ran in 4 of the 7 divisions. He took home 2 of the Golden Drillers, and that's the big trophy that you get. When you win the Tulsa shootout, you get a Golden Driller. He won 2 of them, and he got a second place finish to boot. So a hell of a weekend. Now, here's a couple guys that he beat when he won those races. One of them, Christopher Bell, got second.
He's kind of good.
Yeah, he's okay, slightly above average. And the second place in the other one was Sunshine Tyler Courtney, and he's another guy that's a stud in the open wheels. So hell of a good weekend to him. Now, the biggest drama, Bert, and on this show, we like drama. It just is what it is, right? I don't like being part of drama. I have been part of drama. I probably will be again, but here we just get to make fun of it, right? Which is a lot more fun. And that was in the Winged Outlaw A main. Okay. Now, Jonathan Beeson last year, he got second in this event last year, and he appeared to take the lead. There was a restart on lap with 13 to go, and the leader, fans, you watch. I'm playing the video right here. You can see the leader kind of fired. He kind of hit the middle. To me, I think Beeson just got a great start. It looked like he fired. It was coming off of 4. That guy was up in the middle. He drove underneath him, wasn't all the way by him. It looked to me like a great move for the lead. The race went on, but the commentators were talking about it, saying, "Oh, I wonder if he's going to get docked." They must have been docking people all weekend, I'm guessing. And there was a yellow, 4 to go. Right? They didn't like go green and then yellow and then put them back 2 spots. They waited until the next yellow came out. 4 laps to go, and they said, "You back 2 spots." I'm like, "Oh, ouch." So he gets docked 2 spots. His teammate, Mitchell Moles, ends up winning. Beeson gets back to second for the second straight year. Painful. They interviewed him. He's like, I don't think I did anything wrong. Racers never do. Folks, you look at the video here. I posted it. You make the call on this one. Myself, I think he got absolutely screwed. I thought it was terrible, but I guess, I'm glad I'm not an official. I can put it that way. So, Bert, I got a question for you. Actually, anything else there? Did you have a question there?
I just wanted to say I hate that docking rule where they wait until, if there wouldn't have been a yellow at all, he had no chance of winning. Right. At least with the yellow coming out, he still had a chance to pass everybody to win. But if there wouldn't have been a yellow at all, he had no chance of winning because they would have docked him at the end of the race then.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't like the docking. I'd rather throw the caution right away and dock him right away.
Yeah, I'm with you totally on that one. I totally agree. I don't think he needed to be docked at all, but if they're going to dock, definitely throw the yellow. Give that guy an opportunity to win instead of just completely taking the race away from him. That was bullshit. Now, here's a question I have for you. So the big news kind of as, over the last few weeks here is Bristol. And it is absolutely insane how fast the entries came in. And the last number that I saw, and I know it's higher than this now, but the last number that I saw, you might have some info on this, was 1,225 entries. But after that, they did a couple drafts. So I feel like that number's higher than that. I'm not really sure. I haven't seen anything to confirm that. The question I have for you, Bert, the record at the Tulsa Shootout is 1,397 entries. Is Bristol going to be over or under that number for that big event they got coming up?
I'm going to say under.
Yeah, I'm going to say under as well. I don't know how much. It's in March. There's a lot of people really excited about it. And several classes of cars. And the whole goal to that event, of course, is to get that track rock hard for the NASCAR race, which frustrates me because I want to see the NASCAR cars run on a little bit of character, but they would probably all crash if that happened. So that's not going to happen. So you can count on the fact that the NASCAR race is going to be black like asphalt. Well, not interesting, right? But the dirt races will probably be pretty good. Now you remember back in the day, they were busting wheels out and stuff like that. Did you happen to see, I know David Rudiman posted a warning on there. Rocket Chassis posted a warning on there. What, as a race fan, when you see that kind of stuff, what kind of goes through your mind?
Well, I've followed NASCAR, since the 80s. So, I know the type of place that Bristol is. It's, it can be hard on, and the NASCAR cars are built strong and, built for that type of track. But let's be honest, some of these cars that the weekly racers race aren't up to the specs that NASCAR cars are. So, I believe it was Bristol where Michael Waltrip hit that pit opening and it basically split his car in half. Bristol is a fast track, and you have to take some safety precautions. I did find it kind of weird though that all the safety stuff came out after they had the registration. So that's kind of why that's why I'm leaning under on the car count, because I think there may have been a mentality of, oh, it would really be cool to race Bristol, let's sign up. But then as it gets closer and you realize the safety equipment that you have to have now, and maybe not everybody who registers maybe won't go. But regarding the safety equipment, I mean, I believe that anybody who wants to race there, plans to race there, should have safety on their mind. I mean, I saw a discussion on one of the racing Facebook pages that I belong to, and somebody made the comment that, a Hans device is a little bit of overkill. And it's like, what are you talking about? I mean, NASCAR requires a Hans device. I mean, and I don't even think a Hans device is required.
I don't have a neck.
And but the thing is, racers spend this money putting their cars together and stuff, but then safety equipment like a Hans device, they feel that that's an unnecessary expense. Well, you may feel it's unnecessary until you're in a really bad accident and you get injured, and then you wish that you would have spent the money to be as safe as possible, have as much safety equipment as possible.
And I get it, because that was me. I was that guy, right? When I was racing for most of my years, I didn't even have enough money to race. I mean, I'll be honest. Some of you listening to this will shake your head, and some of you are going to be like, "Yeah, that was me." There was years that I floated checks all weekend long, hoping to cover them on Monday with my winnings. So that extra, I don't know what they cost now, $600, $700, $800 for a piece of safety equipment. To me, it should have been a priority, right? But it was not a priority. I'm like, it don't make me any faster. Even driver suits. I mean, how many times do you see people with holy driver suits, single layer suits that are like 5 years old? Clearly, they're not going to stop a fire and at all, right? And is it responsible? No. It's kind of on the track level. The track, because drivers are their own worst enemies. I was one, I know, and the tracks really should be. I've been to tracks where they do a safety deal. In fact, Wilmer was one of them. I mentioned Wilmer earlier. I don't know if they do it anymore, but I remember going back, I guess, in the mid-2000s, that if it was your first time there, they did a safety inspection, and you got a safety inspection sticker, and they checked out your seat and how it was mounted, and your seat belts and window net and your racing suit and your helmet. They checked all that stuff out, which at the time, I'm like, what a waste of time. Like, I got crap to do here. Get away from me. I'm busy, right? And now looking back, I appreciate it, because at least they're they genuinely cared. And I mean, there was nothing that frustrates the driver more. You get to the track and you're like, oh, your seatbelt's are outdated, you can't race, and you're like, what the hell? There's nothing wrong with them. I get it, but the fact is, they gotta say. I mean, if you're not going to look out for your own safety, somebody should be. And I think every track should do some kind of a safety checkpoint deal. I think they should do that. I think that's an important deal. So I guess hats off to the crew down at Bristol for doing that, especially knowing how crazy fast that place is. It's twice as important there as it is everywhere else. But I've seen some bad accidents happen on little bull rings too. So it's important.
Oh, right. So, and I mean, I'm curious, because they're racing some sort of Hornet class there too, aren't they? I mean,
yeah, like 175 of them or some crazy thing registered for that deal. It's like, them cars will bust in that, but they don't go that terribly fast anyway. But yeah, I guess it is what it is. That just shows the mystique of that place. One of the last great Coliseums, I've seen them call it. Yep. that place has there's a lot of people excited to get down there. Of course, that's going to be on Race XR. So you have to have that subscription.
Yeah, and I mean, with it being IMCA sanctioned, I mean, there are actually more than a handful of drivers from Eastern Wisconsin who are registered to race in that event. So, I mean, it will be fun to watch. If they all go down there, it will be fun to watch them and see how they do.
Yeah, and they actually have two classes of modifieds, right? They got the IMCA mods, and then they're running like a a UMP slash USRA rules class as well. So there's two, they're going to look pretty much the same, but there's two classes of modifieds. And I talked to a sponsor of Aaron Johnson today, Troy down at Brandel Motors, and he said he usually runs his crate stuff, but when they go to Bristol, they're taking an IMCA open motor down there because they're like, that's a big half mile. I think there's going to be an advantage to having some ponies underneath the hood at that one.
Well, I guess it will be interesting to see how many crate motors are down there. And I mean, because let's be honest. I mean, most of the IMCA mods now are crate motors, so it'll be interesting to see what the mix of engines are down there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who wins. I mean, I'll be honest. If a crate motor wins that race, I'd be taking that thing apart because I just don't see how a crate motor can win on a big half mile. I could be wrong. I've never ran one, but I'd be pretty skeptical. When you need all the power you can get, I'd be bringing an open motor down there. So get a hold of your local engine builder for a crate killer to go down to Bristol for sure. So that's a little bit of the recap of this last week. Bert, the off season is officially, well, off season. What off season? That really ain't an off season, right? But it's officially over. We're getting into some hot and heavy racing starting this week. But before we do, what's your thoughts? There was a time not real long ago where, at least for me, racing season kind of got done middle of October. And then really there was, a few months off. Speed weeks kind of started in February, maybe a race in January, whatever, not much. But now there's really not much of an off season. I mean, especially if you live down that way. I mean, they're racing like 12 months out of the year. I mean, it never ends. Maybe a few weeks in December off. Is that good? Is that bad? What's your thoughts on that?
This is kind of a cop-out answer, but there's advantages and disadvantages of it. But I mean, when I was in college, so that was in the early 90s, I mean, it was, the race season would end in, I don't know, October or, early November on the national scene. And then it wouldn't open up again until Speed Weeks down in Florida in conjunction, prior to the Daytona 500. I mean, that was the schedule. It's like, Speed Weeks is when the new season starts. Back in the early 90s, though, I do remember watching, that's when the TNN network was still the Nashville network, and they would show, I believe it was in January, maybe it was in February, they would have I don't think they were World of Outlaw sanctioned, but they were like World of Outlaw sprint cars racing in Arizona. And so I would record those on my VHS tapes and watch them when I had time. But, because I remember Stevie Smith, Sammy Swindell, those types of drivers would race in that event. So that's really the only racing I can remember outside, of December. But yeah, now it's just straight through. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I mean, as long as you're racing in a place where the weather is decent, I mean, you can't, I guess there is racing up in this region in the winter if there's enough ice on the lakes. I mean, actually ice racing, we're in the area where I live, ice racing is actually a pretty big deal. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling here. But
well, I don't know if I could have did it, right? Because the way it worked for me, and again, most of the time that I raced, I was not real good with money. I'll just be honest with you. Like I was always broke and I always had bills to pay. And I would race all season long and our season ended kind of the first week of October. And then by that time, most of my stuff was pretty wore out, right? So then I would get my point fund money and that type of deal, and I'd pay off my tire bill and try to hopefully pay off my tire bill. And then I would sell the car or whatever, and I'd have a new car because I couldn't have a car and get a car. I didn't have enough money to do that. So I'd sell car A, I'd get car B, and then I'd have a laundry list of stuff I still had to get, and I'd get sponsor money, and I'd do what I had to do to, get some income, and then about racing season, about the beginning of April, I'm like, man, we barely got this thing together because financially, there was no way I could do it. So it's just confusing to me how people can race all year long, have, multiple cars and do that. I think it's a little tougher, and it's just it's interesting, I guess. And does it take the novelty off, right? If there's racing like every single week all year long, 12 months out of the year, does it take the novelty off where it's just like, well, I mean, I don't really need to watch this weekend because there's so much more racing going on. Is there any of that?
Well, I don't know the answer to this question, but maybe this racing that has taken place over the last month and a half, has always taken place every year. We just didn't know about it because there wasn't streaming before. I mean, if you look at who has been racing in these races the last month and a half, most of the national guys haven't been racing. So they're creating their own off season because they know that, once the season does get started in January and February, it's a long haul until the following November. So the national drivers really haven't been racing in the races that have been taking place the last month or so. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure if these races were taking place previous years, but we just know about them now because of the streaming, and there's more coverage of these events now.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. In some of these tracks, maybe that are running now, maybe they actually had 2 months off before they in between races or whatever. So there is that. So let's talk. We got some upcoming events coming up, Bert, and we'll start. I guess down in Cocapa, Arizona, the Cocapa Speedway. I think this is right by Yuma, Arizona. So from what I understand, it's literally like a half mile from the Mexico border. Like, you want warm weather, go to that one, right? And this is actually going to be on imca.tv. It's the Winter Nationals down there. This is an IMCA show. They're going to have mods, sport mods, stock cars, hobby stocks, and it actually starts Wednesday. It starts, so it's Tuesday. We're airing the show. Hopefully I have this up. Hopefully it's Wednesday morning when you're listening to this. So tonight, right, it starts, but it's the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And then it's the 14th, 15th, and 16th. So they have actually Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off in between there to kind of do your thing. And a couple guys heading down there from Minnesota. Tim Gonska, he's going down with an IMCA hobby stock. I believe he won the championship down there last year, ran very well. Aaron Johnson, a young gun in the mods, 21. He had a big win down at Boone this year. He's heading down, and Brandon Bombardo, another hobby stock guy. So they race kind of the Brainerd, Princeton. They race that area in central Minnesota. So it's kind of cool seeing those three head down there to give me something to kind of keep an eye on. Good luck to those guys. And the Ice Bowl, talking about a race, Bert, you said maybe this stuff's been happening for a long time. Yep, you're right. This one has. Talk about what's going on down in Talladega.
Michael Page is the defending champ at this race. The race is going to be streamed on Flow Racing, so if you have a subscription to Flow Racing, you'll be able to watch it. But $6,000 a win for the late models at this show. So I am sure you'll get some of the top regional racers racing at that event.
Yeah, they usually get a pretty good turnout. They're interesting racetrack, right? You can drink in the pits, but not in the stands. I always thought that was
really
weird. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, totally. It's a unique deal down there at Talladega. But I wonder if you're going to maybe, looking at the results, like it's mostly been pretty regional deal. That Michael Page, though, he's a pretty good wheel. I watched him. He's a pretty good wheel. It'll be kind of interesting to see that. That's Saturday and Sunday this week, like Bert said, on Flow. And the one I'm looking forward to, Bert, I've been looking forward to this one. Okay. I was actually thinking about going down there myself. Opted against it. I'm probably going to be kicking myself in the tail for that. But the Wild West Shootout, Queen Creek, Arizona, that's coming up here. I guess it starts practices Friday. Saturday and Sunday, the 9th and 10th, they race. They race the 13th, which is Wednesday, and then they cap it off with Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 15th, 16th, and 17th. That's going to be on Flow Racing. The Dirt on Dirt boys are going to be there. Ben Shelton, he's putting this deal on. He has done a lot of work putting this deal together. Hats off to him. Hopefully it goes well. And what sticks out to you about this event? Kind of what are you watching for? What's your thoughts? And then I'll give a couple thoughts on my end.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this event, just like you are. I mean, I think this event has become the unofficial opener of the racing year, I think, for the last 5 years or so. And I'm looking forward to seeing some good young drivers down there and seeing what they can do. I mean, there's a few from well, I guess technically two of them are from Minnesota, but Dustin Sorensen and Jake Tim, they posted on Facebook that they're going down there, and I do want to say Jake Tim's late model looks really sharp this year. That would look very nice as a diecast.
Right,
right. Mitch McGrath from Wisconsin is planning on going down there. Jason Feger, he doesn't travel as far sometimes, but he's making a long drive down there to race. It was really cool to see Rodney Sanders has a late model put together for this. I don't know if that's an entire year deal or if that's just for the Wild West Shootout. But he'll be down there with the late model and modified, if I'm not mistaken.
From what I read on that, Bert, is he's going to focus on the late model. And if that's going well, then he's going to pull the modified out. But it sounded like that he doesn't intend to pull the modified out until he's got the late model going good. So that's interesting. Okay. I don't know if that's going to be his focus for this year or not, but hell of a race car driver for sure.
Okay. And interesting that Jonathan Davenport will be going down there. I'm wondering if he's going to do some testing. Well, maybe not testing, but he's going to try to get some good vibes going for the season after, he finished third in the points. It's not a horrible year, but for Jonathan Davenport, that's not a good year. So I'm thinking he's going down there to try to get his season off on the right foot. So it'd be interesting to see what he does down there. I do want to make a point that, you pointed me to their Facebook page, the Wild West Shootout Facebook page. And I mean, we've talked about Facebook and, some of the evils of Facebook that it can do to racing. But I think that their Facebook page, they're doing a great job of promoting this event by posting photos of the cars of the drivers that plan on being there, because what that does, it just creates excitement. It's like, oh, I want to see Jake Tim race there, see how he does against, some of these more well-known drivers. Davenport's going to be there, how's he going to get started this season? So I think that's a great job of promoting the event to create excitement and buzz.
I 100% agree. And again, hats off to Ben Shelton with MSR Mafia. If you're looking for a website in the racing world, hit that guy up. He did Buzzy's, so you can kind of check out Buzzy Adams' page on there. But man, he does a great job. Hell of a promoter, very good at what he does. And you're right. I mean, they've been working on this deal now for several months already, promoting it, and getting the names out there of all the mods and late model guys. I mean, there's some hitters and one that I'm going to keep an eye on. Boy, he looked good down there last year. Brian Shirley was, I'm telling you, I think he was a step up. Brandon Shepard was fast, right? But Brian Shirley looked really good down there last year. And I'm going to be interested. It'll be interesting to see if he can kind of repeat what happened down there in 2020. The question I have is, so they have the Kaiser $250,000, okay? They upped that deal. And actually, this is the first time ever. I think the final night is $25,000 to win. Shaw Trucking, Don Shaw, Minnesota guy, owns the I-94 Sure Step Speedway. He put extra money into the purse for that night. So the finale for the late models, $25,000. So we're talking some real ching here. But if somebody wins 6 of 6 down there in the late models, they're going to get a $250,000 bonus. Is that humanly possible? And if so, who's it going to be?
Well, I mean, I guess anything's possible, but I don't see it happening with the quality of drivers that it looks as that's going to be there. I just don't see somebody winning all 6 races. I could be wrong, but I don't see it happening.
The only guy that seemed to slow down, right? The only guy that slowed down Brian Shirley last year was Brandon Sheppard, and we know he ain't going to be there. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, it doesn't stop there. If you win 5 or 6, they'll give you, they'll give you a little bonus. They'll give you $100,000. That ain't nothing to sneeze at, right? That'll definitely get your attention and start your season off in style. And if you win 4 or 6, they're going to give you a $25,000 bonus. And the first driver to win 3 of them is going to get a $10,000 bonus. So pretty cool deal. A little incentive there, a little extra cash on the line. A couple guys. One guy that I'm going to keep an eye on, 20RT, Ricky Thornton Jr. He is going to be, I think that this is his year. I mean, he looked really good last year. Hell of a race car driver, his home state. I'm going to be keeping an eye on him. Davenport. Did he drive for Lander's dad last year? Was that his car owner last year?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
I wasn't sure on that.
I think for a couple years he's been driving for that team.
Okay. So he's heading down there. So it's going to be interesting to see JD. I mean, they openly admitted that they struggled last year. They were frustrated. They were disappointed. So now they're taking another swing at this deal, getting off to a start down there. That's a good idea for them, because what a perfect opportunity to test, to kind of get the rhythm going, right, before they get over to Florida. I mean, you look at some of the guys who are going to race that in Florida, unless they're going to go race the World of Outlaw stuff at Volusia, which some of them probably will. But I think this will kind of give them a little bit of a leg up. Jared Landers, a late entry down there.
Yes,
I was surprised to see that. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, man, there's a guy that barely raced at all over the last couple of years, and be kind of fun to watch him as well. So lots of good guys, and now we'll jump into the other classes. I mean, the mods and they call them X mods. You can call them B mods, Midwest mods, whatever you want to call them, right? But let's face it, I'm kind of a homer, but our Wissota boys have done kicked their ass over the last couple of years, and I'm looking forward to seeing that again, right? Dustin Strand, the defending champ in the modifieds, he's heading down. Good buddy of mine, owns we talked about the Devil's Lake Speedway. I got to get to that place this year. I've seen some good races online, but the owner of that, Nolan Olmstead, he's heading down there. He's only got a few races, and he ran a little bit last year, and he's like, actually, he told me, he goes, well, come down, I'll let you drive one of the nights. I'm like, I probably should. I probably should surprise him. He'd let me drive one too. But good luck to him down there. My buddy Wade's heading down there. Shane Sobraski, who had a banner season, regional driver of the year for the One to Go show, he's heading down. There's a ton of guys. I mean, Tyler Peterson, Trevor Anderson is heading down there. So I mean, there's between the Midwest mods. Last year, Skeeter Esty, he won the Midwest mod points. He's not making the trip. He's going A mod racing this year, not going down there. Cole Searing, I believe, won that a couple years. So, I mean, our mod guys, I like watching that show. Don't get me wrong. I love the late model show, but I personally like watching the Midwest mods and the mods, because a lot of them are our area cars going down there to compete. So I just want to say good luck to everybody. Represent well. I'll be watching. Bert will be watching. I'm sure Puka will be watching too. And looking forward to seeing all them guys down there. And I want to see all of our guys steal the win every single night. So any predictions there, Bert?
I'm going to predict that Jonathan Davenport has the most feature wins in all of the races down there, all the features down there.
How many?
I'm going to say 3.
Bold.
Well,
he's got it in him. The dude can flat all wheel. I mean, he's not a world champ for no reason.
He's raced in this event before, and he's done well. I remember him winning races down there. So I think this is gonna be his first step to rebounding this year.
Yeah, if there's a guy that can do it, it's him. And let's face it, everybody has a bad year. Everybody, it's just part of it, right? Bad year, third in points, horrible jump, right? Should probably retire. But in all seriousness, yeah, and the sport needs it. The sport needs JD to run good, because nobody wants to see a runaway in the points. I mean, in a perfect world, there's a 5-way battle for the point lead in all the series going into the end of the year. So we all want to see him do good. Now, The guy that I'm going to keep an eye on, and I kind of hype this guy up all year long, and I think he's one of the most talented drivers in the country, Ricky Thornton Jr. That's going to be my guy to watch. I'm gonna go with the same there. I believe he's going to win 3 of those. And the guy that I'm really curious on though is Squirrel. I'm really curious on Squirrel because it's weird. Like sometimes you watch him and it's like, what the heck is he doing? Like he just struggled with the Lucas Oil deal. But then he runs the Hell Tour and he looked like a man on a mission. He's down there and he looked like the fastest guy on the planet. I'm like, my goodness. So I want to see if he can back up what he did last year. And he started off the season in style, impressed a lot of people. And I'm going to go on the mod side here, and I'm going to say Dustin Strand doubles up and wins back-to-back series in the modifieds as well. So with that said, let's get to the last lap. Little World of Outlaw late model news, Bert. What do you got?
Well, I like it. 4 drivers have announced that they're going to be competing for Rookie of the Year this coming season. And what I like about these 4 drivers is it seems like a lot of times a driver will announce that they're going to run for Rookie of the Year, but they're really not a well-known driver. But there's no other competition for Rookie of the Year. They're the only rookie. So, it's just as long as they hang on for the whole series, they're going to win Rookie of the Year. But this should be a pretty good battle if they all stick it out throughout the whole year. You have Tony Jackson Jr. announced, the Reaper, Ryan Gustin. That's the one I'm really excited about. And then Ross Bales, who had a great year this last year, racing regionally. It'll be interesting to see what he can do on a national tour. And then Ryan Scott. Those 4 drivers have announced they're going to run for Rookie of the Year. And I think we've had this discussion before on which series has the best talent, Lucas or World of Outlaws, and it seems like most of the young drivers gravitate to the Lucas Oil series. So it's good to see these drivers going to the World of Outlaws and injecting a little bit of youth and good hard racers to that series.
Yeah, and I believe Strickler and RTJ are going for the rookie deal in the Lucas Oil, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
And I don't know if there's anybody else that got added in there. Now, I heard a rumor, and I don't know if this is true or if it's been confirmed, but rumor has it Tyler Bruning, Shane Clanton might be making a return to the World of Outlaws series. Have you heard anything there, Bert?
I just heard the same rumor that you heard. I don't know if it's true or not. If it is true, it makes sense. Clanton has had his most success racing in the World of Outlaws series. He's won the title in that series. So it would make sense if it is true.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Now you start looking instead of when they come up to our area, instead of them bringing 8-9 cars, we could be talking 15 travelers. That could be a pretty cool deal. Pretty excited about that for 2021. And another guy I'm excited about, and he's a local. He's the one Minnesota guy in the World of Outlaws series. And I'm going to be honest, he struggled the last few years. Man, I'm sure he had been questioning, should I even keep doing this? We're talking about the B1 bomber, Brent Larson, and he's making a couple switches. He switched to Rocket. I talked to Brent, and he says, look, there's way too many Rockets on the series and way too much knowledge I've been struggling. I need to get just on the same page. And I'm looking for him to have a turnaround year. I'm not saying he's going to go out and light it on fire, win a bunch of races, but for the most part, he's not been all that terribly competitive. He's been struggling bad, and jumping into a Rocket, that's going to give him a leg up, right? I believe it's going to get him on the same page as long as he can kind of follow their system. And I'm looking for him to improve his season drastically. And I'm looking forward to see that. And also congratulations to him. He signed on Motul Oil as a primary sponsor of the B1 Bomber. And I love him. He's a good dude, right? Brent's a good dude, but I'm going to be honest. The last couple cars were not nice looking. And I saw the print for this one. It's pretty sweet. It looks like it's gonna be a pretty sharp hot rod. Probably one of the better looking cars that he's had. So also excited to see that. It's called Visual Horsepower, right? So I think that's going to be an advantage. So congratulations, good luck to Brent Larson. And another thing on the late model season, somebody's going to be kind of making a debut down at Speed Weeks. What do you got there?
Stuart is it Friesen? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
He'll be making his late model debut at Speed Weeks. If you're not familiar with him, he's a big block modified guy. He's also raced in the NASCAR Truck Series. So it's good to see some new blood in the late model ranks. Do you have anything else to add on him?
Yeah, it sounds like the only time he ran a late model was a crate deal. I think something to do with Chubb Frank. I don't know if it was one of his cars or whatever, like 10 years ago. But the way I look at it is this: winners win is what they do. I'm not saying he's going to jump in and win, okay? Let's be realistic, okay? But the fact of the matter is, if he's been successful racing the big block mods, if he's been successful running the NASCAR, the Craftsman Truck Series, he's going to eventually be successful running a late model too. They said that he's going to debut down there. Speed Weeks is up in the air. I think Trucks is his focus. So it'll be interesting to see how many shows, what all of that he runs, but it's going to be kind of fun to see another, I guess, you can call him an open wheel guy. If you call a big block mod open wheel, I guess it's kind of open wheel. It's different open wheel, right? It's more like, I guess it's like a sprint car with a body on it, really. But it'll be interesting to see that down in Florida. Good luck to him. And a little bit more news in the late models, right? We got news. We ain't been on the show here for a couple weeks. We got news. What's going on with the not so smooth operator?
He's got adding some help to his team. He's partnering with Cody Mallory, who I believe was on Jimmy Owens' team last year, wasn't he?
He was. He was with Bloomquist for a long time. And then then last year, I believe he was the crew chief for Jimmy Owens. They did not have a very good year. Only won the Lucas Oil title. Very sharp guy. Very sharp guy.
And they're also partnering with Chase King, and Pierce is going to be driving the new design of a Stinger chassis once it's completed. And so he's adding, let's be honest. Pierce raced hard last year, but you don't remember him in victory lane a whole lot. So it seemed like there was something missing a little bit last year. Now what I did on Dirt watching I think it was like in September, watching the videos where they went to the shops of the different drivers. They mentioned that Bobby Pierce bought all the equipment. He actually owns that team. His dad doesn't own the team. So, maybe some of that played into it. But like you said, Jimmy Owens wasn't a slouch last year. So adding Mallory could really boost Pierce this season.
Absolutely. And there's another guy that's heading down to Arizona, Bobby Pierce, right? And I know they said Cody's going to be down there with him. He's going to be running his car from last year down there. So that's another guy. That track, he struggles. It seems to struggle if it's super slippery. But last year, that track had some attitude. So he could be another guy to keep an eye on down there in Arizona. Now, we can't talk news without talking sprint car news, right? So World of Outlaws sprint car standout driver Shane Stewart, right? And we saw him win last year in the 41 car, I believe, at the end of the year. He jumped in that car and won. Hell of a good race car driver. Is now transitioning from driver to promoter. We've seen this happen. Delansky did it. We've seen a lot of drivers transitioning over to the promoter side, and he's going to be promoting the Port City Raceway in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So good luck, Shane. It's a different venture, but he's been around racing for a long time, and it's just good to see people taking that next chapter in their life. So it'd be kind of fun to see how that season goes for him. On the flip side of that, Bert, a track that we've seen quite a bit on Dirt over this year. There was quite a few races, everything from World of Outlaws. I think they had the Fall Nationals down there, Senoia, Georgia. What's happening there?
The promoter has lost his lease to that facility, unfortunately. And it sounds like the owner of the facility would rather sell it than lease it out. And so they're their 2021 season is kind of up in the air because, I mean, obviously, if you don't have a lease to the track, you can't promote it.
Yeah, that's a bad deal. It sounds like they put a lot of time, a lot of money into it. The guy that was promoting it, his dad was heavily involved, passed away, and it sounded to me like it was the same day that they called and said, "Hey, look, we're not renewing your lease." So, holy cow! Like what a day. But we'll kind of keep people in tune what's going on there because they have a lot of races on dirt that we watched last year. Now, speaking of streaming stuff and technology, my race pass. Okay, this is my race pass. If you're a racer and involved, you know what my race pass is, right? But they started a deal last year, fantasy racing, and my buddy Jeff Krause said, "Hey, did you see that at Tulsa they were paying the top 5?" And he texted me, he got 6th in the fantasy racing points, so he was just outside the money. And there was no entry fee or nothing. Now it looks to me like this fantasy racing from my race pass is transitioning into awards, money being paid out. Bert, your thoughts?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, the fantasy sports industry has just I mean, you can't even say it's grown. I mean, it's exploded over the last few years. I mean, actually, back in 1999, I started working at, well, I mean, actually, I played fantasy sports since I was in college. So that was the early 90s. We would actually hand do our stats. We'd get the USA Today and type into a spreadsheet, how many assists the basketball player got and, that sort of thing. So I've been playing fantasy baseball, football, and basketball since I was in college. I only play fantasy baseball now. I don't do football or basketball. But when I worked at Krause Publications, when I got that job in 1999, part of my job was working on Fantasy Sports Magazine, where we would, this was really before all the computers got into it. So that was Fantasy Sports Magazine was one of the first fantasy sports magazines available in the industry. And actually, Krause Publications helped lead the birth of fantasy sports in the beginning. One of my coworkers, I mean, he was heavily involved in fantasy sports, and I mean, he's one of the people who helped promote fantasy sports to where it is today. But I mean, it's not surprising that it's creeped its way into racing. I mean, with racing becoming more popular, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, well, there's no money. You said that you don't have to pay to get into this, but I mean, everybody so far. Yeah, I'm sure that'll change as it grows. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, this country has a little bit of gambling mentality to it. So whenever there's a chance to win money and, other people can make money trying to get people to win money, it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, is that good, bad, indifferent? I mean, I watched a little football this weekend, and I think Doug Peterson maybe had like a conversation with Vegas, and Vegas said, "Hey, we need you got to take your starters out." That's I don't know. I mean, you start looking at that, you get into some of these big races. If they get a lot of money on the line, does that open things up to we'll fade a little bit? Or I mean, in college when you were doing that, how many of your buddies on the basketball team did you say, "Look, dude, only win by 4, only by 4"?
Well, we didn't have fantasy college basketball, but no, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's always that possibility. I do find it interesting sometimes when I'll be watching I don't watch too much NFL pregame, but I'll be watching pregame and, like a reporter will state that, I have so-and-so on, you better do good. I have you on my fantasy team. It's like, isn't that kind of weird? I mean, you're reporting on the sport and you have a fantasy team and you're talking to the players that are on your team.
Oh, they all do. Every one of them commentators. I mean, every single one of them does. I'm still bitter about fantasy football. Our championship went into week 17. My quarterback was Josh Allen, and let's just say that didn't work out real good for me. I benched him and then I put in a different quarterback, and I ended up losing in the final by just a handful of points because half of my players didn't play, which sucked. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I'll probably participate because if I'm following the races anyway, right? I'm watching them anyway. I'm sure I'll participate. So it'll be kind of fun. You just jump onto my race pass. I think you have to have an account. If you're a driver in Wissota, I think it's free. But if you're not a driver, if you're a fan, I think it's like $40 for the year or something like that to be a my race pass insider. So it's technology's kind of moving on in, right? It's just part of the sport, part of what it is, good, bad, or otherwise. It's happening. And hey, I want to give a quick shout out, Bert. A buddy of mine, Andy Hoftag, he used to pit for me back in the day. He raced himself, and they got their season off to a start. And his son Clayton Hoftag, they went down to Palmyra, Missouri here this past weekend. Buzzy's kid Blake went down there too. He actually beat Buzzy's kid 3 out of 4 times, which getting her done because Buzzy's kid's pretty darn fast. But he won 2 features out of the 4 that he was in. So off to a good start in 2021. He won the Junior 1 track championship last year at the Ogilvie Raceway in the kart class there. So good job, Clayton Hoftag. Keep up the winning ways. Look forward to seeing more of that go on in 2021.
Yeah. How old is he?
Oh, I don't know. I think he's like 12 or 13. He's pretty young. He's pretty young. Somewhere around that neighborhood.
I'm sure it won't be too long before he's behind the wheel of an actual car. So
his dad drove, right? His dad drove, and then his grandpa, which is Dick Moji, and then his uncle drove as well. So, and then I think so he had several family members that have been involved with racing. So that's the next natural transition for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to see young drivers have success and then see how they transition into racing an actual vehicle. And that's one of the high moments of the sport. But unfortunately, there is also some sad news over the last week or so. I mean, you want to expand on that?
There really was, and it's we're getting to that age, Bert, that the people that we grew up watching race. Some of them they're not staying with us, right? And 3 people passed away over the last couple of weeks, and I want to give my thoughts, our condolences from the show to them, their families, their fans. Bobby Satterdahl, he ran the number 98 late model down from the southern Minnesota area. He made many trips up to the Hibbing Raceway. He passed away just a week or so ago, 81 years old. And I just remember several times seeing him go around in 98. Another one that a lot younger. I think this guy was only in his 50s, Howie Schill. And this one hit kind of hard for people in the Wissota community. His son, Cole Schill, really, really turning it on in the late model class. Howie, of course, ran NLRA late models, ran up around the Grand Forks area a bunch. I remember him coming over to the Hibbing Raceway as well. So condolences to their family. And then another guy, a Wissota board member, Bert, passed away. Mark Gear. Mark was a tech guy. He worked over at the KRA Speedway, multiple different tracks that he was involved with. Just one of those guys at the track that was super easy to get along with. Not the prototypical tech guy that is arguing with people. This guy was a guy that was he was friendly. The conversation was always good. So from all of us at the One to Go show, just want to give our thoughts, our prayers, our condolences, to the loved ones, all the family and friends and everybody involved with those 3. And, it's just one of those things. We got to really appreciate the people we're around while we're around them, because you just don't know how long that's going to be. And, I do got to mention one last thing before we round out the show. We got called out here on Facebook, and our last show, we kind of had the best of 2020, and we gave the best national racetrack, if you remember, to Falls, right? Fairbury. And my buddy Tony, he says, I think you guys made a big mistake. I think you guys had a gross oversight here, and probably we should have given it to Weber Valley Speedway. I did not really pay attention to that. Probably correct, but we already gave that award out. So Weber Valley Speedway is ranked number 1 starting out 2021. We'll have to see how Gage Martinez and the boys do, and see how things transfer down there with the Bang Bangers.
I saw you. I saw on Facebook you blame me for the oversight. So
Yeah, I said you got to blame Burt Lehman for that one. That's totally not on me or Puka. So, but that deal cracks me up. If you check out Weber Valley Speedway on Facebook, my goodness, you'll get a good laugh for sure. And I don't know if you remember, but Bloomquist actually he did a little interview right there. Said, "I'm coming for you, Gage Martin." Remember that deal? That was
okay.
Yeah, it was pretty good stuff. So you gotta have a little fun once in a while. But again, big time looking forward to the Wild West Tour. Again, good luck to all of the northern drivers. You know, whether you're Wissota, you know, or you know, over from your direction over there. There's a couple guys, McGrath heading down. You know, represent us well. You know we're going to be watching. So if you do anything stupid or if you do anything really good, we're going to talk about you. So, you know, hey, any closing thoughts there, Bert, before we end episode 61?
No, I mean, just happy to be back talking about racing. I mean, it seems like just yesterday we were enjoying the holidays. Well, actually, it kind of was just yesterday, but it's good to be talking racing again.
Absolutely. So, race fans, there it is, episode 61 in the books. I'm Ryan Aho. That's the Burt Lehman. As Puka always says, go out there and be your dream. We're the One to Go show.